When you hear the word apocalypse, what comes to mind? Fire, chaos, the end of everything, right? But what if that whole idea is just wrong? Today, we're diving into a really different take from a speaker named Tony Eustein. He argues the apocalypse isn't an end at all, but actually a beginning. So, where does he even start with a claim that big? Well, he kicks things off by posing a question that kind of challenges everything we think we know. He just asks, what if the end of the world isn't an end at all? His whole point is that this concept, the one we automatically connect with total destruction, might be one of the biggest misunderstandings in history. And this is the key. The whole argument really hinges on the word's original Greek meaning. Apocalypse doesn't actually mean destruction, it literally means an unveiling of that which is hidden, a revelation. That one little shift in definition changes the entire story from an ending into a moment of truth. So, if the apocalypse is about discovery and not destruction, what's being discovered? Well, according to the speaker, there are a few layers of hidden truth we need to peel back. And the first one starts by looking inward at our own beliefs. To build his case, he points to what he says is a major conflict deep inside the Christian tradition itself. It's these two totally competing ideas about God and judgment that really challenge that single story we're all familiar with. Okay, so on one side, you've got the vision from the Book of Revelation, the one we all know. The speaker calls this a really rigid, top-down system of judgment, where punishments are final and forever. But then he brings up this other, much lesser-known vision from a Byzantine nun named Anastasia. In her version, mercy is the main event. Punishments aren't set in stone. They can actually be reduced by the Virgin Mary or even by the prayers of people still alive. And this contrast is absolutely central to what he's saying. He argues that if you only focus on John's vision, you get this image of a God who is all about judgment, no exceptions. To get the complete picture, he says, you have to bring in this idea of infinite compassion. And this whole concept of a hidden alternative view is a theme we're going to see again as we go deeper. So just questioning religious dogma, that's only step one. The next hidden truth he points to goes way deeper, right to the core of what we are and what happens after we die. And this is where he makes a really bold claim. He says that the single greatest truth that's been suppressed by mainstream Western religions is reincarnation, the idea that our souls get more than one shot at this. Now, he points out that if you look at the whole world, more people actually believe in reincarnation than don't, thanks to major Eastern religions. And he argues that taking this concept out of Western thought wasn't an accident. He says it was done on purpose to push a you only live once mindset, which, in his view, leads to people living more recklessly. This brings us to what's probably the most out there part of his whole argument. He claims it's not just our spiritual journey that's been hidden from us. Our entire history as a species has been covered up. So get this. The speaker presents a completely different timeline of Earth that pushes our story way, way back. He talks about mathematical models that he claims prove the Great Pyramid was built 1.6 million years ago. He says there were pre-Adamic civilizations that existed before the biblical Adam. And he suggests the real story of creation is an ancient Sumerian text that describe gods from the sky called the Anunnaki. And this alternate history is what leads him to his biggest theological challenge. He looks at certain scriptures and asks some pretty tough questions, like, would a truly all-loving universal creator put a 120-year limit on human life? Or intentionally cause suffering in childbirth? Or order the killing of children? The speaker is basically suggesting that maybe the entity described in these passages isn't the ultimate creator, but something else. So, what's the point of all this? Why does any of this ancient history and theology matter today? Well, according to the speaker, it's because we are living through the climax of this whole grand story right now. Yeah, he argues that we are in that final era right now. But remember, for him, that means an era of unveiling, not destruction. He brings in the Hindu concept of cosmic cycles, the yugas, and says we're in the last chaotic moments of the Kali Yuga, or the Iron Age. It's a time of darkness and ignorance, sure, but it's one that is destined to end, with all this suppressed knowledge finally coming to light. And he wraps it all up with a very specific prediction. In his view, the year 2027 is the turning point. He foresees a complete collapse of all our organized systems. We're talking religious, financial, political, the whole shebang. And this chaos, he claims, is what will force the great unveiling, making these hidden truths absolutely impossible for anyone to ignore.
So, in the end, the speaker's worldview really reframes our entire existence. It turns our past from a settled history book into a giant mystery to be solved. And it paints our very near future as a moment of massive, maybe even shocking revelation. It really leaves us all with one big question to chew on. If our past is a secret, what does that mean for our future?